Okay, right. Let's talk now to Erol Morkoc, a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK. He's in Davis, California. Thanks so much for coming on the programme.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So it's an historic day for the US, a new direction, a call for unity from Joe Biden. How much luck do you think he will have in that new call for unity?
Well, I think the amount of unity you can get out of a speech is going to be quite minimal. Unfortunately, the way that they treated President Trump over the past 4 years is going to have some reciprocal quid pro quo elements to it. That said, I will say it was a very nice speech, very polite, good theatrics, good optics. If anything, the American people and the Joe Biden supporters certainly enjoyed it. From our perspective, there's still a lot to go here. This election has not been called in any of these states. Keep in mind, the media is not the one who decides who is elected. It's going to be the states. And when you have recounts and when you have some of these runoff elections, quite simply, if those things are going to occur, logic dictates that the election is not over yet. But it was a great night for the Democrat Party, and the speech was very welcoming to all people who wanted to be open to Joe Biden. But in the balkanized situation of U.S. politics, I'm not quite sure how many Trump supporters even watched it.
Well, let alone how many Trump supporters even watched it. What about the next few years and coming together? You know, Biden's calls, it was soaring rhetoric about unity. There's no such thing as red states, blue states. There's the United States. Is that something that at least some Republicans will get on board with?
Well, he said that at the same time that he talked about a great blue wave that had hit the Midwest. So I'm not sure if he's delineating red and blue states in such an egalitarian manner. I will say there are areas such as infrastructure, which I think we could all be keen to work on together. But for the most part, he's going to have a lame duck presidency, as we have the Senate. So all of those radical tax plans aren't going to be possible, and we'll be able to check any wanton.
Hang on. 2 minutes ago, you said the votes haven't been counted. We haven't called things. So you can't now claim that everything's been decided in the Senate. You know, it hasn't. There are still runoffs in Georgia.
But it's trending in a situation where we're assuming that Joe Biden has won the election, which is how you presented this, then we're assuming that we've at least held the Senate. And should that be the case, I guess I should say, then it would be a lame duck presidency going into the midterms, where, as you saw, the Democrat Party was not able to pick up the House seats they expected. You saw Abigail Spanberger from my home state of Virginia lambasting her party's left-wing element, saying we cannot use the word socialism or we're going to be wiped out. She used an expletive in the 2020 election, and that's what's 2022 midterm election, and that's going to happen. And when that happens, and we have the Senate and the House, I mean, then perhaps the low bar that's been set for impeachment will turn back on the Democrat Party. Remember, elections have consequences, as we are finding out in this election, but they do have to be aware that there's another election coming up very soon.
Threatening consequences doesn't sound like a message of unity. Doesn't sound like anything that Joe Biden was talking about.
That's Barack Obama's words. That's what Barack Obama said in the election in 2008. That's why that term is in our lexicon for political discourse.
Okay, look at over the next 4 years, the Republicans, if the maths in the houses change, what about across the country? Can you see a dialing down of the polarization in the country at large?
I think on the surface, definitely. I think one thing to take away from tonight is there's 70 million angry Trump supporters, and none of the cities are on fire. Nobody put them down because, we're Americans. We love our country. We don't loot and burn our own communities. So the idea that there will be less violence and less polarization, of course. That's how our voters are. We're not a bunch of malcontents who spend 4 years depressed about an election. We get up and go to work every day, regardless of who's elected president, and whoever's rightfully elected president is our president. We don't have these childish, pedantic tantrums. So by default, the country will get along much better because we're not the party of resistance. However, it will have a problem in terms of getting votes out. You have people who are willing to use the democratic process to rectify what's happened in this election. And the midterm election is where we're going to be focusing everything after, of course, these recounts and the critical Senate race in Georgia.
Erol, great to have you on. Thank you so much for talking to us. We really appreciate your time. Erol Morkoc, thank you.